Welcome along, everybody. We are back for another In the Cockpit podcast. It's episode number 4. We're flying through these episodes. Fantastic stuff indeed. And of course, Sean is here as well. He's got his lovely tropical background back, looking beautiful as usual, with his lovely pink headset as well, modelling it and styling it very nicely. And we've got a special guest. Special guest, would you reveal yourself?
Hello.
Well,
Nice
there
to
we
be
go.
here.
That's nice stuff. We've got Emerson, of course. Emerson is the special guest this podcast. Of course, he's a fantastic league racer, plenty of experience and plenty of wins under his belt. Sean doesn't agree, of course, because of course Sean is the best league racer. Take a bow, Sean, and don't fall off the screen.
I can't move, so yeah.
But yeah, we've got Emerson with us today. Obviously, he's going to add a few bits and pieces, and obviously we talk to him about his perspective of league racing and things like that. And of course, it'll be a bit different to mine and Sean's because we are hopeless, even though Sean thinks he's the best. But yeah, there we go. So we'll start off. Of course, we want to do a recap, obviously, on how the last couple of races went in HDE. Of course. We missed last week for unfortunate events. So we've got a couple of races to catch up on. We've got, of course, the Portimao race, which was the first time that HD has ever raced around Portimao, which was very nice indeed, in my opinion. It looked very nice watching it. And then, of course, the Spain race as well. So yeah, we'll start with Emerson. So Emerson, how did you think your Portimao race went? First of all, we'll start with the Portimao one because of course it was round 6. So.
Well, yeah, obviously it was about 2 weeks ago now, so it's not exactly fresh in the memory, but it's one of the ones I wanted to probably forget about, to be honest, because it wasn't. Well, I'd probably put it down as probably one of my worst, I think, over ALR and HD and PB and everything. It was just the track by itself was quite difficult, I think, and yeah, I just struggled massively. I didn't really do a lot of practice for it and everything, which I probably should have done, but it's just a relatively hard track to kind of get your setup right because obviously you've got that super long straight and then a lot of high-speed corners as well. So to get the car right, especially on this game in general, to be honest, it's just relatively difficult to get it right. And yeah, I think I got involved in a few incidents here or there. Ended up spinning towards the end trying to go for the fastest lap, so I didn't even score a point. So yeah, it was pretty bad, Portugal for me personally, which is a shame because I really liked the track, but I just couldn't. Yeah, I couldn't get it stuck, and yeah, I just ended up having a pretty crappy race.
Unfortunate as well, but how did it go for you, Sean? I'm sure the stories will be much different over on your side.
Oh, I was doing amazing until until me and an unfortunate emu came across each other going into the pit lane. So less said about that, the better, I think. I think we both had the same idea. Unfortunately, I didn't realise the pit lane was on the right-hand side. Anyway,
I think I wouldn't say you were doing that amazing, unfortunately, but yeah, of course, it was all going to come back to you later on in the race. I would imagine, definitely.
yeah.
He had it under control. Sean was going to get that win, but unfortunately, yeah, decided to go into
Not just to win the Grand Slam.
There's nothing grand about my slam. Let's move on.
But you just touched on it there a little bit, Emerson, as well. Portimao being a good, well, like I said, you don't mind the track. You think it's a good track to race on as well. Obviously, we've had the 3 tracks, and we've raced the 3 tracks already in the HD calendar as well, Imola and Jeddah earlier on. Out of the 3, which ones? Well, how would you rank them? Which ones are the best, or which one is the best, and then all the way down to the 3rd best, sort of thing?
Can I do them from? Well, I don't really like any of them particularly on the game.
Okay, that's fair.
Weirdly, so my most least favourite, so the one that I like the most. Does that make sense? Is Jeddah because I feel like over one lap, if you do hook it up, it is quite nice, but it's just so hard to follow another car, and if you make that mistake, you're in a wall, and it's just gonna end up in damage, and you've got to be on it, and it's probably one of the hardest, I think, track-wise. I'd probably put it harder than Monaco because in Monaco you've got the slower speed corners and it's just a lot easier to get a flow. With Jeddah, if you mess up one corner, you just have a knock-on effect for the next whole sector, or 2 sectors really, if you get it wrong at the beginning of the second. And it's quite close between Imola and Portimao, but I think I'd probably pick Imola just because of, I don't know, the history of it. I quite like the fact that F1's back there, and yeah, I quite like the layout of it, and it's kind of got a bit of everything. Maybe it needs a few more slower corners for an overtaking opportunity, but you do have the long straight again, at the start, finish straight, to kind of make a move. But I think they maybe need to redesign the first, well, second turn, I suppose, is probably Sean would probably tell, because there's a slight kink going into turn 2. But yeah, I think they maybe need to do something. Maybe make it a hairpin or something along the lines of that, because I don't think the braking zone's heavy enough to. You can overtake there, but if it was a slower speed corner rather than just more of a flow in, you might be able to get a lot more moves done there potentially. But yeah, then Portimao, I'd probably, on the game anyway, is probably my least favourite, only because was it the start of, is it turn 8, Sean, when you're going up the hill, and
Yeah.
do you know where I
Turn
mean?
7, I think it is. The one where it sort of spins you around if you
Yeah.
put the angle too much. Yeah.
And it's just super hard to get right, but it's a nice track. I just don't particularly like it on this game, so that's my opinion on them anyway.
I've got a question
Sean,
for
are
you.
you similar?
You
go for the question first.
Yeah. Well, I've got a question for both of you. I was watching the 2020 season review earlier on, and they was going through all those classic tracks. Which one would you pick that you would add on to this year's Formula 1 2021 game?
What, of those 3?
Out of the
classic track?
out of the ones that we had for F1 2020, it's like Mugello, Nürburgring, Turkey. I'm sure there was one more.
Well, personally, well, it sort of ties in with the 3 tracks as well, the 3 new tracks on the game,
Yeah.
and then obviously in your calendar as well. I do like racing Imola on the game. I think it's a great track actually. Once you get the setup right. Obviously, I'm not amazingly fast around there, but I think the setup wise, it is great racing around there. It's great fun. So it's my favourite out of the 3. And then, so I would include that as well, Sean. I would say that was probably one of the tracks that I would have liked added, and it was added anyway. And then Turkey, just for the nostalgia of it and the flow of the track. I think it's an absolutely fantastic track, and it's a shame that we haven't got it in the game, and it's a shame we don't race on it pretty much every season in Formula One real life as well. To be honest, in my opinion.
And it's also a shame that Codemasters hasn't got the second classic track that it promised us, but never mind.
Yes, well, yeah, on about that. I remembering all the way back to the beginning of, well, before the game was released, they said 2 historic tracks, and I think one of them is China. Unfortunately, I did say it was going to be China. One of them was going to be China.
What's the second one then?
I thought the other one was going to be Vietnam.
Imola, isn't it?
It's just easy to put in. No, because they said that they were going to have Imola, Portimao, and Jeddah added to the game as well. Anyway, so they were going to have those 3 tracks added, then 2 historic tracks, and then 5 short tracks as well. But none of that's happened so far.
Unless Australia counts as a historic track because it wasn't on last year's calendar.
You're just grasping
technically,
straws
anyway.
Said, no, there's no technically about it.
Maybe.
Back in my day, you would get this.
So what were you going to add? Sorry, what the track of the tracks that we raced on in 2020? Well, the real life calendar raced on in 2020. Which ones would you add, Emerson, to the game, to the calendar?
I think, like you said, Turkey. I think it's a crime that it's not on the game, to be honest, because it's not like Codemasters haven't had it. I think the last one was 2011, I believe, the last game we had it.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a great track. Like they've literally. Okay, yeah, I get now. Obviously, technology's come on a bit way, so the way that they scan tracks or whatever, and how they put it in the game's obviously changed. But they must have some sort of baseline where they can still put it in for us, even if it wasn't up to like the standards of what it is now. I think people would still find it fun. And then the Nürburgring as well, because I've always liked it. Again, I think maybe the last game that was on was 2012, I want to say.
13.
Or 30, yeah, because they used to alternate between Hockenheim, didn't they, and Nürburgring. Yeah, I think that track should be on there. And I don't think it would be great on this game particularly, but maybe next year it would, because obviously on this one it's quite a slim track and there's not really that many places to overtake, especially with how these cars specifically are on this game. And, well, the design of this game is hard to overtake anyway. So maybe on the next game, or the last game potentially, they would have been good. But that's what I would like to see for Codemasters next year. It's just we'll just add. I don't see why they don't just add loads of tracks. Do you know what I mean? Like they've had it before where they had Jerez, we've had Brands Hatch, and obviously all the other ones aren't on the calendar now, but the games have been on there. I mean, I guess it's probably down to licenses and stuff like that, but do you know what I mean? I think they should try and just get as many as they possibly can onto the game, just because it would just. I think one, it would get people playing it more, and two, it would keep it more relevant and fresh for a longer period of time.
What I was going to say on that is that, like I say, with the licenses, I think obviously they are the official F1 game, so they have to follow the. Well, I don't think they have to, but they need to follow the sort of official F1 guidelines and
that have contracts
as well. So yeah, exactly. If the track has got a contract, then they can be added to the game. The contract will probably have a part in it, which is saying you're going to be added to the Codemasters Formula One franchise game or something like that. So
the FIA and Codemasters need to pull their finger out, I think, and get us some good content that we deserve.
There we go then. That's case closed. Emerson's going to be off the Codemasters now to sort them out.
Sign the petition, link in the description.
To sort out all the glitches as well with you on
Just more tracks.
More tracks, but more glitches at the same time, probably. That's probably what's going to happen. But yeah, so I think, like I said, to be fair, all the old tracks that have been on the old games, I know, even to be fair to Codemasters, Jeddah is not a realistic copy of the actual track. Obviously, I think they finished the build for Jeddah in the game before Jeddah was finished in real life.
Yeah, it's only like a week or two before we actually raced there, wasn't it?
Anomalies there, yeah. There's going to be anomalies there where they can't get it right. But I think, obviously, like you said, for likes of Turkey, for Imola as well, obviously they had Imola in the game before as well. They've had that opportunity to add that sort of thing in, and it would be good if they did, like you said, do sort of like maybe not a DLC pack, but like a Call of Duty map pack or something, like where you got extra tracks, but just added new tracks, maybe just adding a new track for a temporary time and taking another one out or something like that. Even if it was it was free, that'd be all right, I think. And then we could do events and stuff like that on league racing and stuff. Would be good. But yeah, we sort of sidetracked away from. We were talking about Spain in HDE. We're going to go back now. We're talking about Portugal in HDE, and now obviously because we missed a week, we had Portugal and then we had Spain as well. We'll go back to Emerson again. How did your Spain race go?
Well, it didn't go as well as I thought it would, to be honest. Again, it kind of had a bit of a shocker. Weirdly got a 5-place grid penalty in Q3, which was really annoying. Not really anyone's fault particularly, but I'm not going to go into that too much detail. But the game decided to just give me a 5-place grid penalty, which pushed me all the way back to 11th, I think it was. And I think starting on the hards was probably quite a bad idea as well, because I didn't really realise how far the mediums could actually go before they started dropping off. I kind of just fell back a bit at the start, obviously because there was a lot of people around me on mediums. And then there was a virtual safety car, so I thought I'd take advantage of that and take the mediums to the end at that point. But as I was literally going into the pit lane, it was ending, so I kind of didn't even get any kind of advantage from it. So it was a bit of a stupid, well, not stupid, it was just kind of like a stab in the dark, a kind of a risk to try and get myself further up the grid, but it kind of backfired. But I still managed to get 10th in the end because I didn't get any penalties or anything. But usually it's one of my better tracks, which is a bit of a shame that I didn't get as good a result. But yeah, I was quite far off the pace. Not too bad in quality because it was wet, and I quite like the wet. I feel like I kind of adapt to the conditions. But yeah, I think I should have been P5 in quality, which would have maybe made my race a hell of a lot easier than what it was in the end. But yeah, it is what it is, and we now go on to Monaco, I suppose, and try and keep that out of the walls, which is going to be fun.
That'd be a great one. Go on, Sean.
Just a quick question then. Emerson, you, of course, you're the most successful driver in the ALR history, era, I should say, with you basically won 1/3 of your Grand Prix you've entered in, I think 106 starts, 33 odd wins or something like that. Ridiculous stats. Wins are hard to come by at the moment, and only one podium this season as well. How do you find it racing the mid pack now? Because it's a completely different psyche, isn't it? I mean, It's very similar to what Damon Hill had in '97, really. Well, not to the extreme. Well, cool, I'm not saying that you're in the narrows now, but but it's now you're like fighting not as near the front as what you normally are. So how do you process that?
Honestly, I've not done it very well. It's quite hard to get your head around it, to be honest, because you sort of just go from being at the top of your game to just struggling. So yeah, it's kind of my own fault because on the last game, obviously we had COVID and lockdown and stuff, so we had a lot of time to pump into the game. Where now I'm working a lot, so I don't have as much time anymore to practice like I probably would want to. Um, which is obviously a shame because I'd love to be fighting at the top. So some races when I kind of just get a little bit lucky with finding a setup relatively early on in the week and a track that I know, like Bahrain, for example, that was a really good race and I probably could have potentially even won it if I maybe just played the race out a little bit differently. But yeah, I thought maybe this season it would be a lot different. And I thought I'd maybe be able to be a lot further up the grid, but the grid this year is very, very competitive. Obviously, as we know, so a 10th here is huge now compared to what it was before. So you can't really afford to make any of those mistakes. So yeah, it's just frustrating more than anything. But I haven't really got on with this game as much as I did the last one anyway, so it's kind of a factor of two things. So it's a bit annoying when you come out of the race and you're only scrapping like a few points here and there, or compared to like getting a podium or something. It doesn't feel as satisfying. But that's just the winning mentality in me, really. I think it's just you want to be at the very top, and winning is part of the fun. But I still have fun, obviously. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it anymore. But yeah, it's just. Yeah, frustrating is probably what I'd summarise the whole thing.
I think what you've got to sort of take into account as well, and you did touch on it there as well, is that comparing grids, the grid this season is so much more competitive, and like you said, it is that, well, not even just tenths, it's thousands and hundreds of a second that can play a factor in where you start in the race. Obviously, like I said, with the grid penalty, it didn't make a difference really. But like I said, you could have been starting fifth or maybe fourth or something like that. Obviously, with that few millisecond sort of increase or increase to lap time. So, like I said, it is that factor will obviously mean that some people who, like yourself, who were starting probably like pretty much starting P2 or 1 sort of thing the previous seasons, like coming in and obviously having to do that, having to sort of fight with more drivers rather than just the odd 2 or 3 sort of thing. And yeah, obviously we've seen a lot of people like it is much more competitive, and a lot of people obviously don't like it. So yeah, it's like I said, fair play to keep them going. To be fair, and like I said, it is difficult. Even when I sometimes pop up in a race, I'm only there just to make up the numbers, obviously. But especially in Division One, even to be fair, in Division Two as well, I'm like these times are incredible. To be fair, so even getting in the points in Division One is yeah, something that I can only dream of, and Sean probably just doesn't know what it is, so you can't even dream of it. So
all I know is a good job the 107% rule doesn't exist on this game.
yes, yeah. So like I said, I think, and again, obviously a few people I think have had slow starts to the season, including yourself. To be fair, hopefully I'm allowed to say that. Don't hurt me.
I'll allow it.
I'll allow it. Okay. Yeah, I think you could see like having a slow start to the season. It happens obviously in real life as well. And then coming back, and I think, for example, Gerdman last season, who won the title, he didn't have a great start to the season. I think he only got 1 point in Bahrain in the first round, and then it didn't turn out great for the next few races. And then later on as the season progressed, the form started picking up, and then you start getting those points. So I think, like I said, and you got a podium in Bahrain if I remember correctly,
Yeah.
long time ago now. But yeah, so I think, like I said, coming back to that, like the form side of things, when it comes up, it will bring you those points as well. To be fair, as Sean knows very well in Division 6, that his form is impeccable and he gets win after win after win. So
Form is temporary, class is permanent.
Which one do you have?
Neither at the
Neither.
moment.
There you go. Oh, sorry, Sean.
It's because I'm in a
But
rubbish
yeah,
car, I know.
that's probably it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What on that as well? How did your race in Spain go, Sean? Because we've covered Emerson's in Division One.
It went fantastic. I didn't have a DNF, but I didn't score
Brilliant.
points. I didn't even start the race, so I'd say that's a positive, really.
Oh, of course you didn't. Yeah, I completely forgot. It's been that.
Oh yeah. I was gonna say what? What happened?
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, it was your nephew's birthday party, if I remember correctly, wasn't it?
It was. Chicken was amazing. So
Good stuff. That's what you need. Nice bit of
Was
chicken.
it finger licking good?
Oh, it was.
No sponsors, I'm afraid. We need a bit of sponsorship. If you're listening, Chicken Master.
Yeah, well,
The Colonel.
No, we can't have that because it's copyright, isn't it? Was it Seven Fried Chicken would do, wouldn't it? SFC.
SFC, yeah.
Yes. If going back to Emerson a bit quick, because I got a few more queries then. In regards then, you've raced with us now since season 2 in Azerbaijan. There's been a lot of highs. There's been 1 or 2 lows as well. Going back to last season when you was battling with Gurman, there was a couple of races where you was involved in a few incidents. I remember Spain, for example, where you got tipped around in the very final stages and things like that. Do you look back on those moments and feel I could have been a triple world champion? I could have. I could have taken the championship down to the wire because I think Gurman won it with a couple of races ago. Do you feel that moments like that was outside your control? How do you do that? Because well, as you've seen on my league races, I can't keep my head. So how do you keep yours?
I mean, that's one of those things that, like you said, it's out of your control. I mean, the only thing you can do is just do your best and hope that that's enough and that you get a little bit of luck sometimes. Because, yeah, luck's obviously just as important as being good, to be honest. Because sometimes you're out in front from starting further back on the grid, doing that long first stop, and you get a safety car coming out on the exact lap that you want to come into the pits, and then you're right out at the front. Like, you just need a bit of luck sometimes as well. And I don't think I got a lot of that last season. I think, if anything, I kind of got my fair share of bad luck that I hadn't had from all the seasons before, kind of just dumped on one season, to be honest. But yeah, it's hard to keep your head around it, but it's just one of those things you can't get too annoyed about. You just got to crack on and do whatever you can do to make that from not happening. But yeah, I mean, in hindsight, I probably could have done things a little bit differently, and maybe I could have challenged him down to the line. But I think he probably would have had me, even with those small mistakes here and there that I dropped a few points on the odd occasion. Because towards the end he was just way faster than me and picked up a lot of pace. So I think if I practiced more, maybe it definitely could have been a lot closer. But I mean, it's in the past, isn't it now? And you just got to move forward and try and get that third this season. Maybe, who knows? I mean, I might want to swing it round. You never know. Very unlikely. But
speaking of the past, going a bit further back, I remember being in your very first league race. Just coincidentally, actually as a racer as well. And like I said, you joined. It was the second season, way back when, probably what was it, 2019?
3 years ago, yeah, 2019 sounds about right.
Was it 2019 game? It was 2019 game definitely. So I'm thinking, it might have been somewhere.
Yeah, because I remember I bought it on Xbox because I had an Xbox back then. And then 2 weeks after buying it, obviously Dan, my cousin, was like, "You should buy it on PlayStation." So I had to basically waste another. Well, not waste, because obviously many good things came from it.
Investment, all right.
Yeah, that's what I meant. And then I had to buy it again.
Yeah, so I remember jumping in. Oh, well, you jumping in? I think it was. Like I said, I think it was the 4th round of the season, so it wasn't too far in.
Baku,
Azerbaijan, Baku, absolutely fantastic track, beautiful track. Sean's
lovely.
favourite. It is a lovely track, to be fair, to race on. Any comments, Sean?
No. Street tracks.
Street tracks are great. Anyway.
Too many walls.
So I remember. We saw Emerson join in, and nobody knew obviously what your pace was, what your speed was like, what you were like as a racer as well, and you went around in Q1, I think it was, or in the first quali sessions, putting it on pole with blistering lap times, and everyone was like, "Oh, this guy's pretty good," and then somehow somebody else managed to get you on, get pole position ahead of
Yeah, I
you.
don't know how. I don't know who it was either.
No, nobody now. Yeah. Anyway, and then even though that happened, you went off and just blistered away in the race and won by probably about 500 seconds to P2. So yeah, what was your thoughts in your very first league race, having not done it at all before? And like, what was your feelings when you're in the race? Like, do you have it under control, or were you a bit nervous, or what's going on?
I mean, yeah, I was absolutely bricking it before the race started because obviously I'd never done anything like it. And I mean, I know back then we didn't have a lot of people watching it, but there was a fair amount of people that would obviously tune in to watch. So knowing that there was people watching you as well was obviously quite nervous.
Oh my
And
God,
I'd never
they're
even
watching me.
literally, but I'd never even raced online. I mean, I used to do a little bit of open lobbies, but I was literally a career mode guy from the first F1 game in 2010 all the way up until 19, where obviously I stepped
same.
up a bit, and I hadn't even really played a lot of it on PlayStation either, like I touched up on, and then it had literally only been for like a couple of weeks, and I was so used to the Xbox controller, jumping over to that was quite different. So that was quite hard to adjust to straight away. And then obviously, like you said in quali, setting good times, and then obviously you pipped me to pole position. But then the race went pretty well. I mean, even though I did have damage twice, once before my first pit stop, I think, and then I think I might have just stayed out with wing damage later on in the race, or maybe I'm not. I can't remember because it was so long ago now. But obviously,
we both got wing damage going through the castle section at different times in the race, and then
maybe, yeah.
I know I definitely pit for another wing, but I'm not quite sure what. But yeah.
But I did make a good move on you onto turn one, I think, and obviously our very own Ninja Rage completely missed it on stream, which is such a shame. But
yes,
Standard.
nice
I know.
one, Sean. Fantastic stuff, Sean.
I know which side my bread's buttered.
Good stuff. He knows what to do.
He was much of a rookie.
Someone's going to overtake Knowlesy quickly. Switch over.
Who's this new guy? We're not showing him on stream.
Yeah, we don't want to give him any like TV time.
No, he hasn't subscribed, so definitely not, because I'm that shallow.
But yeah, I think I remember obviously being in that race as well, like I said, and I think I remember the quali I think more than the race, to be honest. But I remember really pushing to set a good quali lap to beat you, and thinking, my God, if I set this time anywhere else, like I'd be seconds ahead of people. Like it was literally, obviously I was better at that game than I was now. But it was like, yeah, I couldn't beat that time if I tried again. Basically, I don't think it was literally the perfect sort of quali lap, and then obviously in the race it fell apart. But it went up, fell down to P2. But
your front wing fell apart.
Well, yeah, it did when I hit the wall in the castle. Yeah. But yeah, I just remember thinking in the race, like, I know you were in the party with me as well. To be fair, because obviously we all joined the party chat and sort of had a chat.
I don't know if I was back then actually. I think I was by myself.
Pretty sure you were, because I remember Dan was in it as well.
Well, maybe then.
But yeah, I think we were chatting away, and obviously we were quite comfortably in the lead at the time, and I was just like, I can't keep up with him. I'm going to have a problem. I wanted to win this race. And I was like, I'm very much nailed on for P2 here. So that was it. And then yeah, that was literally there was no point in trying to keep up with you, because I literally was going as fast as I could. And I wasn't gaining any time. So yeah, so like I said, it was the very first league race you did pretty much set the precedent for the rest of your league racing, in my opinion, anyway, from what I saw later on, obviously. But yeah, I mean, obviously we'll skip on a bit now. Obviously that was your first season, and it was sort of a learning season, if you will, like your rookie season, obviously, like getting used to league racing, like you said, and being brand new to it. And then you had another season or so, another season off. So to speak, where you finished second in the drivers overall, and then literally it was the fourth and fifth season back to back, drivers titles wins. So something must have clicked for you on that, or was it the game, or what was your sort of, like you said, you did touch on like you had more time on that game as well, but like what was your thoughts when that game came out, and how you were performing in that couple of seasons?
Well, in season 4, at the beginning, to be honest, I had a lot of internet issues, but it was really frustrating because I was relatively quick, and then I don't know what it was, to be honest. Even looking back on it now, I just had quite a few issues, which cost me. I think it was in like the first 4 or 5 races, to be honest, I had some issues. So I had a really, really slow start, and I think we had a rule back then. If you did leave the lobby, you couldn't even rejoin it because it would mess things up. So it's not like I could rejoin once I got it sorted or anything. But yeah, like you said, everything just clicked. I've kind of found a pattern in setups that just worked for every track. You just had to change your wings and your suspension. Everything else was literally the exact same. So you literally kind of got the car, kind of, yeah, you could call it that, cheat codes. And yeah, everything just clicked. It was relatively easy every week to kind of find a setup that would work for me. And I mean, a lot of people tried my setups and didn't really like them, but that's because I usually used to run a higher downforce setup. Only because back then I was usually I could get out ahead of a lot of people and get out of the DRS quite easily, so it was easier for me to be more consistent with a higher setup, downforce setup, sorry, and just keep the penalties down if there was a safety car or anything else in the race. Even if I didn't struggle to overtake people either, which was quite surprising because you just had so much confidence with a high downforce setup just to send it on the inside of people or around the outside, even on older tyres sometimes. It just sort of just clicked, and I just ran away with it sort of after I had my internet issues sorted and everything. And like you said, the rest is kind of history after that, which is, yeah, looking back on it, amazing. I'd do anything to go back to that now.
Yeah, I think we were talking about it before, or I can't remember when it was, probably in party chat or something. But we were talking about obviously the previous games and how we felt about them as well. And I thought, and I was basically saying I was agreeing with you as well. To be fair, I think pretty much every game that you like is the ones that I like as well, and the ones that you don't like are the ones that I don't like as well. So
pretty much.
So yeah, I think it was, well, obviously the last game 2020. I think we're both pretty good fans of. Obviously, you a bit more than me in terms of performance and wins. And then I think this game has been like you said earlier, a bit more of a struggle, a bit more difficult to get used to. But again, I think probably, like you said as well, the amount of time that you've got to spend on the game is different as well. So maybe if you had that same time to spend on this game currently, maybe you'd find that this game is probably the same, or maybe a bit better even. You never know. So there we go. Sean thinks all the games are great, and he's the best at all. So, he's number one on all the leaderboards from every
He is
game
the GOAT.
since 2011. He's top of the leaderboards.
Go back to 95. No one could beat me because it's only single player.
Yeah, has anyone beaten Sean on F1 95? No, I don't think so.
I challenge you to that. Get the Nintendo out, whatever it was on.
PlayStation 1, that was. It was only one player. It was only one player, so I'm fine. Undefeated. Going back to a quick question, if that's all right, Alex. In regards to your teammates that you've had, one teammate that stands out in particular for me in your history is season 4, Mr. Elite. You and Mr. Elite were Fabu together. You had an incredible 1-2 in Monza, which I thought was supreme. Do you? I feel that that was Mr. Elite's best season as well. He was third that season. No disrespect to Mr. Elite, but he was more of a midfield runner up until that point, and then all of a sudden he was finishing. He was in the top 3. I think he had the 3 podiums that season as well. Do you feel that when drivers are partnering you, that they elevate their game, kind of thing? Because you are also not only you're not only like a driver's champion, but you're also 2-time constructors world champion as well. So that's still nothing to sneeze about. Is that, what do you reckon?
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I think we touched on it when we recorded this last time before it messed up. But yeah, Mr. Elite was. I don't know what you're on about. Yeah, Mr. Elite was. I couldn't fault him that. That season he was just incredible. To be honest, we were never in a party with each other, but we kind of just were on the same wavelength when it come to like qualifying, whether to like slipstream things or in the race. Like he would always let me through if I was faster and vice versa. And yeah, he just helped me out a lot. And we exchanged setups and strategies, and if he was outside the top 10, okay, be like, okay, we'll alternate the strategies. This is what tyre I'm starting on, so we don't, overlap each other if there's safety cars or anything, and double stack and stuff like that. Yeah, like you said, I think we definitely did elevate each other because it motivated him, I think, to want to do well when your teammate's doing that good. You want to be right there with him or her or it to. Yeah, Bay. Sorry. I think he did a really, really good job to get that far up. To be honest, because he, like you said, I think towards the start of it, he was further towards the back of the midfield, and he really pulled his socks up and got a hell of a lot of points. To be honest, which I was quite surprised about. So yeah, brilliant teammate. I want him back.
I think he's longest serving member. I think probably because he was in from season 1, round 6, if I remember.
Spain.
Yeah, I think it was round 6. It was round 6. I think it was anyway. I don't know what track it was, but yeah. So since season 1, round 6, Mr. Elite has been about. He's been racing for many years. Somebody's a bit tired.
Sorry,
we keeping you.
It's not you. Yes.
But yeah, he's been about for such a long time, and like I said, I think he has been, as well as being consistent in terms of racing, turning up every time and putting in a good shift. He has been a consistent driver throughout all the seasons that he's been partaking in, to be fair, as well. So shout out to him, of course, because he's, like I said, he's a great talent. And like you said, I think you sort of brought him up a level in that season 4 as well, to be fair, as his teammate. And like I said, it's a pleasure to have drivers like Mr. Elite on the grid, to be fair, because you know that you're going to get a good drive from him. He's going to race fairly, race cleanly, and be consistent. And that's probably why he's a good teammate as well, to be fair. So yeah, we want lots of Mr. Elites as our teammates, I think, because he does a good job.
He's getting emotional.
There you go. That's Mr. Elite is just making him sneeze. So we'll go on to another topic.
Before we do, Alex, could I just quickly have one more question?
Another question.
I know, terrible. So I got a really interesting question, and I'm not sure how you're going to answer this one. So you've won 2 titles. Which one is your favourite? Because they're completely different. I know it's on the same game, but they're completely different titles. You won season 4, being on the back foot with technical failures. You was 80 points behind Eat the Cookie after round 8 or 9, almost the halfway stage. Then season 5, you absolutely dominated. 21 podiums in 22 races. It should be 22, but of course, Farf was about. but what is your favourite championship?
I think if you ask anyone who's ever won anything, there's nothing better than the first. Because obviously I had 2 relatively disappointing. Well, the first one not so much, but the second one, I definitely feel like I could have maybe even won it then. Obviously things didn't happen that way, but yeah, definitely the first, because like you said, I was very, very far behind on points, and I remember, I think it was 100 points at one point actually.
Yeah, it could have been.
And literally in 4 races, he had 4 DNFs, and I won 4, and the gap had just disappeared, and I was back in it within 4 races, which is kind of unseen of and unheard of. He had a lot of bad luck, yeah, but I had 4 really, really good races. So yeah, I think definitely the first one, just because it was just a long time coming, and I kind of finally did what I wanted to do, as well as getting the constructors as well, like you said. Yeah, definitely the first. I mean, the second, like you said, was still incredible, but it was kind of like a part 2 of that season for me. It kind of carried on from where I left off, and it kind of merges into one a little bit, because it didn't really feel like a different season, because I was in the same car, had a different teammate, yeah, but it was the same grid and everything, and yeah, it kind of just carried on the form from where I left off from the first one, really.
Sensational. Over
Is
to you,
that
Alex.
satisfactory, Sean?
That is perfect.
Good stuff. No, that's all right. No, like I said, it's like I said, 2 fantastic seasons as well. I don't think you can say either one of them. Sorry, was disappointing. And obviously they're both title wins, both drivers, constructors as well. In both seasons, you can't really say there's anything too shabby about that. So yeah, I was going to say
Maybe one more podium, particularly in Monaco, but touch
all right then. Well, no, we're not. Yeah, we're not allowing that. No, we can't have you taking that extra podium. But no, it was like I said, both of them fantastic seasons. To be fair, like anybody who's won a title in any division in any league, to be fair, has obviously done a good job of getting to the top. To be fair, so yeah, it's no hard feat. So yeah, good stuff indeed. We're going to move away from the league racing side of things now a bit to some interesting news that came out last week. Obviously, when we missed we were going to talk about it last week, but unfortunately we couldn't do the podcast. But the replacement of certain race directors in the FIA. What obviously came out last week was that Michael Massey was being, well, not removed from Formula One, as he's still part of the FIA team, but he was no longer going to be the race director for the F1 Grand Prix races. And we had 2 new boys coming in. I can't remember where they are now. It was Niels, which I've got here. If I'm pronouncing that right, I'm probably just butchering that. Former DTM race director. And then we had Eduardo Freitas, again, probably completely wrong. Sean's pronunciation is much better than mine.
I beg to differ.
And he was the WEC race director as well last season. So I've got here as well that actually they'll act alternatively as the F1 race director. So I don't know whether that means that they'll actually be switching or whether they'll be an alternative, both of them at the same time, to Massey. But yeah, what was your thoughts on replacing Massey, Emerson, and your thoughts on these new race directors, if you know anything about them from your experience?
Well, I mean, obviously everyone knows I'm kind of a Hamilton fan, so I wasn't completely on agreeing what happened in Abu Dhabi. Well, not even just Abu Dhabi,
It's a very
even
strange
across.
Dutch flag you got behind you. Sorry.
Oh yeah, I know, right? I don't think it was just Abu Dhabi really that did it. I think over the course of the season, rather than a sport, he kind of turned it more into a circus. Not because of that's a harsh way of putting it, I think, but he tried to create more of a show than a sport, especially in Abu Dhabi, and it kind of made a bit of a mockery of Formula One, in my opinion. And I think there was no way he was going to be able to get away with what happened. And going from how good Charlie Whiting was at his job to Michael Massey, it's like night and day, to be honest. Like you could never fault over all the years. I don't think. Maybe when he was first started doing it, Charlie Whiting, he just never made a mistake really. Where Massey made several in the space of one. But I have heard a few things about. I don't know which one it was. I think whoever the DTM one was.
Eduardo, wasn't it?
No, Niels. It's the other one. Literally, you're
No,
not 50-50 chance, Sean. Come on.
But yeah, I have heard that
God.
some people are saying that he could potentially be even worse than Massey, which,
Right.
yeah, it's not a good sign. But because I think there's a controversial thing that happened in DTM, and he got the call completely wrong. So, I mean, you never know. I'm not gonna judge them before we've seen what they can do in Formula One, because they might be amazingly perfect. But I mean, you can't really go a lot worse, in my opinion. Yeah, from what we had last season, it's going to be. It can only be a step sideways or a step forward. I don't think we can really go any step backwards from what we had before. So I mean, it's a positive change. I'd probably say.
Sean has some other comments on that. I think maybe he's got a memory of when it was a lot worse.
Well, to be, you never miss what you have until it's gone. So, and I've heard about exactly. I don't know. Westlock maybe, but yeah, Neil's kind of. I think there's a 3-race scrap in DTM 2020, wasn't it, or something like that, and. Yeah, there was a lot of argy-bargy, and I don't think he made the right calls. Michael, I do feel sorry for him because he probably. I feel that because it was the last race, he wanted to. He really was. He didn't want it under the safety car, but and as Emerson pointed out, I feel that he wanted to make it more of a entertainment or a show rather than a sport, which is a shame, really. But he's had so many high profile errors, though. It's like the 2 lap safety car fiasco. To be fair, it wasn't his fault, but starting this race under a safety car for 2 laps just to tick a box, I thought was a bit naff, really. And also, I think there was a Lando Norris and Alex Albon incident in Syria, or not Syria.
Styria.
Styria, God.
That'd be one hell of a race,
in
that would be.
Syria.
It'd be like Mario Kart, that would be. A GTA race or something.
Good lord. What?
Syrian Grand Prix,
Let's
that'd
just
be good.
stay Austria, Spielberg. There was an incident there with Lando Norris and
Yeah, it
two
was
similar.
turn four, and Norris got a 5-second penalty for pushing Perez off, and then Perez didn't get a penalty for pushing Leclerc off. I think it was at the same corner.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, identical incident, really. I think it was pretty much, but nothing happened. Yeah. Sorry, Sean, interrupted you.
Oh no, carry on. You needed to save me there. Gosh, I was in
No,
the
that's all
complete
right.
wrong
Well,
world.
I was just thinking, like obviously
Sean
with
Soteria.
that championship coming down to the final lap, well, final race, put it that way, at the time, and then with that safety car that needed to be brought out, obviously for the incident with Latifi. Obviously, it was definitely a safety car warranting incident.
Wow.
Well, it was. There's a car that's smashed into a barrier, and it is you can't put a VSC out to wheel that away or something like that.
Could have red flagged it, but
I think that's what
he
should have done. No, I think that's what he should have done. In hindsight, obviously, I think that's what would have been better, because then obviously you'd have a fairer fight for the title at the end of the race, and you'd have more laps to do it as well, because you wouldn't have to wait until the last lap. But the pressure that was on Massey to put on a show, because the amount of people that were watching that was incredible. Even like the non-Formula One people were.
I think it was 108 million. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. 108. Well, exactly. But I mean, I don't know the numbers for just normal F1 races, to be fair, but they're not really anywhere near that. No. The amount of people that were non-F1 fans that were just tuning in for the race because of the situation of the race, of what it meant, was incredible, and the pressure that put on Massey to put on a good race, I think just with that, and again with that incident, obviously the race was going absolutely fine before the incident. I don't think Massey made any wrong decisions. To be fair, of course, some people will say that there's that point incident with Vettel, not Vettel, with Verstappen and Hamilton, but again, it was sort of ifs and buts on that one, and I think Massey did a fair job there. But then at the end, I think when he was like, "This needs to be a safety car." Oh, if I call out a safety car, when will the racing start again? As in, which lap it will resume? As in, green flag running. And then he realised, oh, the safety car's already out, so I don't think. Can he reverse the decision when the safety car's out? He's called a safety car out for an incident. Can he then call a red flag?
Yeah, yes. I think he could. Yeah, but obviously you wouldn't get the lap back from where you red flagged.
No, of course. But I mean, because he called the safety car out, and then obviously there was that whole mess of teams radioing him saying
every team.
Obviously we heard the two main teams that were involved, but then literally every other team was also radioing him, because he was telling them originally, no lap cars won't be allowed to overtake, and then the only reason why it all became a mess is because then suddenly 4 lap cars were allowed to overtake. So like I said, I think if he thought about it a bit more, had a bit more consideration, then he could have probably called a red flag after the first lap of safety car. He'd still have 3 laps of green flag running to go, and then that way everyone can come back round, come into the pits, or go onto the grid even, get the mechanics onto the grid, and then put on a fresh set of tyres or whatever, and you still got a 3 lap shootout. But anyway, that's sort of by the by, because obviously it's all done and dusted now in Abu Dhabi. But I think with the new guys coming in, obviously I've heard the stories about these odd incidents and things like that as well. But yeah, I think maybe we're having a different structure where for the FIA in terms of on race day, like race director wise, where you've got the race directors there at the very top, intermediates in between them and the team bosses, because the team bosses are now not allowed, obviously, to communicate with the race director during the race. Having somebody in between there to sort of mediate that, and then feedback anything that may be actually important to feedback to the race directors as well.
There's another person who's around the race directors. He's an advisor, which is Herbie Blash, who used to be the right hand man to Charlie Whiting, and I think that's going to be
Perfect.
I think that's going to be a major helping hand, and I think Michael Massey should have had something like that, to be honest, because he was thrown into the spotlight literally on the eve of the Australian Grand Prix when Charlie Whiting unfortunately passed away. I remember watching the news and it was so surreal. I just couldn't believe it. And yeah, but I think that if Michael Massey had a Herbie Blash next to him, I think a lot of decisions would have been played out differently. And I think that Herbie Blash's experience, because he's been around F1 for yonks, mind. So he should. Hopefully, you would see much more consistency. I think with the decision making this year. So I hold him quite in high regard, really, mainly because in the Charlie White in his era, there was some funny shenanigans going on, but everyone knew who was boss, really.
Yeah, I think obviously we'll find out when the season starts, when the racing actually starts, what's going to happen and what it's going to be like, sort of management wise, I suppose. Like I said, Massey still has got a role with the FI. I believe it is some sort of safety role, but it isn't obviously to do with on the race day. I think it's a general role. So yeah, I've seen that he's still employed by them, but it's been booted out. But I think the other thing that I was going to say about that as well is obviously the person that was most worstly affected by it was Hamilton. There was some rumours going around, and obviously we saw the court case between the FIA and Mercedes, and obviously Red Bull were in attendance as well. There was some rumours going around that Lewis was like, if it's sort of me or him, Lewis will quit if Massey stays in the job, sort of thing, or if Massey goes, then he'll come back, as in Lewis will come back. Do you think those were true, or I mean, it's probably just? Do you reckon it's just something made up by the papers to sell some papers? So
Yeah, I think it was definitely a bit of paper talk. Definitely, I could see why they would think that, because obviously he went completely off the grid, didn't he? And no social media and stuff. Where usually he's quite, as everyone always says, he wears his heart on his sleeve a lot of the time, which in this case he didn't. But he showed a touch of class, even though he knew he completely got robbed after Abu Dhabi. He still went and congratulated Max and his dad, and wasn't salty and angry about what happened, because at the end of the day, it wasn't their fault.
no, exactly.
That was what happened. So that showed his class, I think. That's
No, I think, like I said, I didn't think it was true, to be fair, either, but I just thought it was though I obviously didn't think about it back to when it actually happened. Like I said, there was nothing sort of malicious or anything, but the way he sort of reacted to Max winning it, of course, it wasn't in Max's control either what happened. But yeah, it was just I'm glad to have him on the grid still. Obviously, as a Lewis Hamilton sort of fan, well, as a British racing fan, to be fair, I want the best of the British drivers and best British teams to be doing well. So yeah, I'm hoping that Lewis can go back to McLaren one day, and be with Norris, and they'll be winning titles. So. But yeah, of course, F1 predictions will be coming up soon in another podcast for this season. So keep tuned, stay tuned. But yeah, I think sort of in line with that, we've seen Lewis have difficulties in one season. For example, obviously with the season 2016 with Rosberg, where of course I think he was a lot more. Not immature, but the sort of mentality wasn't there that he's got now. And he came back from that season and absolutely blitzed it in 2017. Do you reckon that that's what we're going to get in 2022 from Lewis Hamilton. He's going to come back and he's going to go for it and he's going to just destroy the grid again.
I mean, I hope so, but I don't think it'll be as easy as that. I think, well, hopefully, in my opinion, it's going to be like 2012, which has definitely been one of the favourite seasons I've ever seen with my own eyes. So we had 7 different winners in the first 7 races, which was just crazy. But yeah, obviously with all the new regulations, I think obviously we've seen the Barcelona test now, and Ferrari and McLaren apparently are obviously the 2 of the teams that have caught a lot of people's eyes. Red Bull as well with a lot of their side pod stuff that they've had going on. And Mercedes are sort of just doing their own thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if I kind of see them struggling a little bit at the start of the season. Because obviously it's such a big rule change, and the fact that they won the Constructors' Championship, which means they get the least wind tunnel time, and all of that's new rules and stuff that they've added in for next season as well. But Lewis is obviously his class driver. We were actually talking about it on Discord earlier on that if everyone had equal cars, I think the likes of Seb, Alonso, and Hamilton would probably be right up there again. If they've got the machinery, we know what they're capable of. So, yeah, I think Max obviously would as well, but yeah, I think that Hamilton is just one of the best drivers I think we've ever seen. I mean, obviously Schumacher's obviously got the same amount of titles and stuff, but Hamilton's stats and statistics are just crazy good. To have won a race in every single season he's entered in alone is something which is unheard of. But yeah, I'm hoping he can come back stronger next year and take it right down to the wire again and get that 8th, because I think that's kind of one thing that he wants to do, because I think once he gets that 8th, I think he could start thinking about maybe hanging up the driving gloves and the steering wheel and potentially thinking about doing something else. Yeah. Not that I want it to happen, but I think it'd be great to have him alongside George, mentoring him for 1 or 2 seasons, and then kind of pass on the baton maybe, and then we get another great British driver like George come through.
I think that's exactly what the plan is, and that's what I hope will happen as well.
Plan.
I think it's the Merc plan, I suppose. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's going to be an exciting season. Obviously, having George in the Mercedes seat as well full time is going to be fantastic to watch as well. And I think it's going to shore up the Mercedes in terms of, I think, like you said, maybe Red Bull will be a bit more have a bit more development. Actually, we've seen the cars in testing as well, which we'll touch on in a minute as well. But I think George, compared to Bottas, will bring some more points home to Mercedes and will be actually competing for podiums. For example, like when we saw in Mexico, when we saw Max and Perez, obviously absolutely dominating the race, to be fair, and Lewis still up there as well for the podium, and Bottas nowhere near. I think Russell will either be in 4th or he will probably be fighting the likes of Perez for that 3rd place still, even without a car that's just as competitive as it is, or as it was like last season, where Red Bull had a slightly better car, but Mercedes were bringing in the sort of upgrades and not the upgrades, but the performance, like the engine changes and things like that as well late at the latter part of the season. So yeah, it's going to be an exciting season, no doubt. We've had, you touched on it there as well. We've had a bit of testing in Barcelona getting underway. So, how much have you seen of testing this season so far at all? Is any? I know we're not supposed to be seeing any of it because it's not broadcast, but
it's a shakedown.
There we go. That's the feedback. So. Yeah, I mean we've seen obviously the times and we've seen sort of the performances of the car in sort of videos and clips and things like that as well. Like I said, the Ferrari and the McLaren are looking pretty good, which would be nice because having them sort of join the top 2 or be a bit closer to the top 2 would be, I think, really good for the sport. But I was interested to see your thoughts on how you think the other teams have done in testing and what's happening.
No, I was just pointing at Lando again because you mentioned McLaren, that's all. It's okay. Lando Norris, Sean. Get your glasses out. Down there, look, that's his help. Do you want me to go get him?
Yeah. Go get him.
Bear with me.
Hang on, hold on. Anyway, what? He's actually got. Oh, I didn't know there were stairs there.
I didn't know there were
Just
stairs either. I was like, what's he pointing at? Oh, nice.
Oh, that's beautiful. Beautiful stuff. Yeah, lovely.
Why is he down your stairs?
I didn't realise those were stairs.
I mean, it's actually Ayrton's. Oh, it's actually Ayrton's, but.
Oh, I see.
I didn't realise
Okay,
those were
like that
stairs.
bedroom
That
was.
in Greece. Yeah, very nice.
It's a trap door, actually.
Oh, okay.
To my dungeon.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, we'll touch on the dungeon another time.
Keep it PC.
So yeah, what was your guys' thoughts? We'll start with Sean then. Sean, what was your thoughts about testing and maybe some ideas of who's going to be who we're expecting to be up there, obviously, but and then just any sort of feedback, any thoughts about who do you think is going to be surprise packages and things like that?
Well, at the moment, I was listening to a little piece with Ted Kravitz, amazing bloke, I love him. But he was saying about how Ferrari seem to have the best engine at the moment in terms of top speed and just overall consistency.
You know what that means?
Yeah, it's going to go.
Illegal engine.
Yeah, I was going to say there's going to be some new directives at the end of the year, aren't there? But yeah, so the Ferrari powered cars are looking pretty strong in terms of like speed and things like that, and I think Ferrari are looking really good. I'm being tentative because we all knew about Ferrari looking so good in 2017 and 18, I think it was, wasn't it, where they seemed to be pretty immense in the testing / shakedown. It's not a test, as Ted Crouch kept saying.
Oh yeah, of course.
But Ferrari are looking good. McLaren are looking good as well. I don't think we've seen the best from Mercedes or Red Bull yet. I think that they were just like getting some laps in, because I think that didn't Red Bull do the most laps and then it was Mercedes second or something like that in terms of time on track.
Yeah.
Google it. Two teams I'm very disappointed in is Haas. Really, they've been like developing this car because they basically chucked the 2021 car basically in the bin.
Well, they skipped last season. They didn't even do anything last season to the car, so it was all focusing on this season.
Yeah. And they've.
You're actually wrong, Sean. Sorry, it was Ferrari completed the most amount of laps with 439, Mercedes with 393, then McLaren with 367, then Red Bull with 358, Williams with 347, AlphaTauri with 308, Aston Martin with 296, Alpine 266, Alfa Romeo 175, and then Haas 160. And also can give you the fastest lap times as well if you'd like them.
No. Yeah, go on.
So you had Hamilton with a 119.1, George with a 19. Obviously, this is on different tyres. You had to see all the different compounder tyres, so it's a bit irrelevant. But yeah, both Mercedes were up there. Perez was third, Lando was fourth, Leclerc fifth, Verstappen sixth, and then Vettel seventh, Gasly eighth, and then Sainz and Ricciardo ninth and 10th. But all the times were relatively close within a second of each other. So
there you have it. Verstappen flash in the pan. He's not going to do anything this year.
He's a fraud.
Testing means everything.
Yes. But going back to the Haas point, I'm very disappointed by they threw 2021 away, and 2022 I was really hoping that they would be in there like swimwear really, but they really haven't. So hopefully it's because they've done a lot of like technical gremlins, weren't they? So hopefully they can get it together in Bahrain. Same with Alfa Romeo as well, really. I think Alfa Romeo looks to be the slowest car. I'm not sure. Well, I get my information off Ted Kravitz, so it might be wrong. But
don't give away your F1 predictions.
I was saying this to Ayrton, sorry, that I think the Alfa Romeo is going to be the worst car on the grid. Not just because they were the latest to reveal their car, which usually to me is a sign that they weren't really ready. Because obviously it was after they started doing, not testing, the shakedown, that they revealed their livery.
Well, maybe their graphics designer was just having a long holiday before.
Maybe, but to me that kind of is a sign that the car wasn't ready and they didn't really want to reveal it yet. So I might be completely wrong, because I think Bottas will do great, but I'm not quite sure about Guan Yu Zhou. Although he has got a very nice helmet, a tribute to Kobe Bryant with the same number and a cool design as well. But yeah, I agree with you. I think they might be one of the worst teams on the grid, and I think Haas will start slow. But I think once they get past all the legal things that are going on at the minute with Russia and whatever, I think because they'll have the extra wind tunnel time compared to everyone else, they'll be able to develop this car a lot further and quicker than every other team, and obviously that's crucial. As long as the wind tunnel actually correlates with what's happening. Oh. Well, that would be helpful. But yeah, if it correlates with what's actually happening on the track.
Yeah.
No.
Maybe I'm being a bit harsh with Haas then, because you are right with all what's going on, the terrible events going on in Russia and Ukraine. I think maybe I'm being a bit harsh, but I still expect more really from Haas. And Alpine are not looking good either, are they, with their reliability? They got something wrong with their old fuel, aren't they?
Interestingly, yeah, on Alpine they've switched the engine, so they have. I think it's a twin.
Oh, the same as the Mercedes and Honda concept, isn't it? Twin turbo.
It's twin turbo, but I think they've it's obviously their own engine, because they're the only ones using the Renault engine this season. So yeah, it's I mean, they've got the L plan. You're about to fall down the stairs. They've got the L plan. I think he's in the chat. They've got the L plan, which is obviously the similar sort of concept to what McLaren are doing, and they've been gradually increasing their performance and developing their car, and now it's guaranteed. It's definitely probably even hopefully this season a podium runner is in a car, potentially. I can see the Alpine plan going either way this season. From these regulations, it's either going to be really good, or this engine's going to backfire and it's going to be really bad, and it's going to be Alonso with his GP2 engine again.
Rah, love it.
There we go. That's all we need. Rah, we love it.
I generally hope not, because I love Fernando. I think he's amazing, and I really want him to do. I really want him to do well, but I'm unfortunately again I'm in the negative side of things. Alpine to me just feels like they're on the back foot. I really hope I'm wrong, but that remains to be seen. Usually what I say is the opposite. So any Alpine fans out there, it might be good actually.
Yeah, so if Sean puts Mercedes last, he knows that they're going to win. So there you go.
My own Alfa.
So obviously we had a look at the testing. Obviously we saw the liveries. I think the liveries look a lot nicer on the cars when they're actually on track than they do.
I don't think there's actually any bad ones, to be honest. Even I wasn't a huge fan of the pink Alpine, but it actually looks quite good in the sunlight.
Pink Alpine's the best one, isn't it, Sean?
Oh, easily.
Matches that pink headset of yours.
That's why he's loving it so much. Yeah. No, I think all the liveries, like I said, the Aston Martin, I think concept wise, not concept wise, but image wise, when it came out, was probably the fan favourite, including myself. I think overall, I do like the Mercedes and the Alpine just for that of it, because it is a bit different, and I think obviously the Red Bull is pretty similar to the Red Bull it's been for the last 10 years or so.
They do have a new cryptocurrency on there now. I think it's called Byte.
Oh, it's Bitsy, isn't it?
Oh, is it Bitsy?
Isn't it BITCI?
I thought it was Byte. So
it's worth a lot of money, that is, though. To be fair, so I can understand why they've done it.
It's the new it's the new tobacco stuff, isn't it? Like literally, 10 teams have cryptocurrencies now. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah. Anyway, so interesting enough. Obviously, I think since we did the last one, obviously we've had the last sort of couple of liveries come out. Obviously, we had the McLaren livery, which I think looks very nice as well, and some other bits and pieces as well, including the Alpine. And then we've had the Alfa Romeo reveal now as well. What's your guys' thoughts on the Alfa Romeo livery? Is it better or worse? Or
it's nice. I do like it, but
Sean, your thumb got cut off by the green screen.
I do like it, but I don't think there's anything wrong with the old one. It's nice to freshen things up a little bit, but I think the last one looked quite clean and cool. To be honest, I think maybe change up a little bit. But I think was it one race they had like the Italian flag on
Yeah.
the emblem on the back, and that looked really, really good. So I think maybe they should have kept with that. But I'm not against it. I think like I said, there's not a bad looking car on the grid, to be honest. But I think I preferred last season's car, to be honest.
I love it. I think it's lush. I like the Alfa Romeo. It's my new favourite.
Yeah, I was going to say I think I can't fault anybody's livery. I know that there's some that have had minimal changes, like the Red Bull, for example, but I think even the Red Bull looks pretty fantastic. And I think, like you said, like we saw in the testing with the side pods and the design, then that looked pretty cool as well. To be fair, but speaking of testing as well on the livery side of things, just very quickly, we touched on obviously the incidents that's going on in Ukraine and Russia and that sort of thing. What's happened with the sort of Russian sports Russian representatives of in sports as well that's happened since then, and of course, like we've had the likes of Mazepin coming out and obviously saying that he doesn't want this to happen, anything like this to happen. He wants peace and everything like that as well, which is really good for people like that to come out and say, because people in that position of power position of sort of visibility from everybody else around should say that sort of thing and should come out and support that thing. But we've seen in terms of the livery side of things a bit of a change there as well. Obviously, with the sponsors being removed from the Haas as well. I mean, I think, like I said, the concept behind why they're doing it is for a good reason. What do you think it's done to the livery itself? Do you think it's made it better or made it worse or what?
It's a bit of a plain Jane now, isn't it?
Yeah, I kind of agree.
It's sort of like going back to sort of Brawn vibes, but not as nice at the same time, if you know what I mean.
I mean, I quite like it, but purely that's because of the fact that the reason behind the sponsoring and everything was just because of Mazepin and his dad buying his way into it. So that's why I don't think it was a bad looking car, to be honest. I mean, before I think it was, but the way that it kind of flowed with the new car and everything, I thought before they removed it, it looked quite nice. But I'm actually kind of a fan. I know, like you said, it is just a plain white car, but it's been a while since we've kind of. What is he
Sorry,
doing?
I don't know what Sean is doing.
Sorry, my laptop's about to die. I was trying to be very sly.
You didn't do a very good job of it. Oh, he disappeared now.
Slid off the screen.
He's fallen off his chair again.
We'll carry on whilst he's sorting himself out. Oh, he's back now. But yeah, so I mean, and like I said, you just touched on it as well. But I think, it's because of the whole situation. I think the way that the world is dealing with the situation is to stop any income coming into Russia from sponsorships, from funding, that sort of thing. So it has affected the teams. I think there was rumours as well that Mazepin might have lost his seat. I think that has been confirmed that he won't lose his seat now, but he is not allowed to race at the British Grand Prix this season coming up anyway. And I don't know whether that, I think because of licensing as well and because of the sanctions as well.
Yeah.
But I think also there might be the case for other Grand Prix, especially in Europe, for Mazepin as well. And obviously it's not just in Formula One; it's been in other sports as well, all over the place as well. So
Formula 2.
Yeah, Formula 2, but I mean also in like tennis, football, that as well, all over the place. So I think obviously once this sort of conflict over in sort of Ukraine and Russia finishes, then we can get back to a bit of normal, and then hopefully everything sort of calms down a bit very quickly. But I think in terms of the livery side of things, it looks quite nice. Just having a nice sort of white car, which we haven't had for a long time. Even the Brawn, unfortunately, had a few sponsors on it at the end of the season anyway.
Virgin.
When Virgin came along, yeah. So
that wasn't an insult, by the way.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking to Sean.
I was going to say, I'm with Sky. How dare you?
But yeah, so we'll obviously have to see how things develop on that one. But obviously, at least, well, in some cases, obviously, some people don't want Mazepin to be racing in the sport either. But I think he is in support of. Well, he wants to promote peace, and he doesn't want anything that's going on. And I think, like I said, to ban him from the sport would, when he's already got a contract and already got a seat, I think is probably a bit too overboard as well. But yeah, I mean, there's not much more to add on that really, to be fair, than what we've done. But yeah, I just want to I wanted to see your thoughts on what the differences are with the liveries. I think it'd be a shame if Alfa Romeo couldn't go back to their camo livery instead and use that. So, that was quite nice.
They wouldn't be able to be seen though.
So maybe they would finish 1-2 every race. You never know.
But then the cameras wouldn't have picked them up, and the sponsors would be absolutely devastated.
If they just took the transponder out of their car and then just
put it on
put
the
it at
finish
the
line.
finish,
Yeah.
put it at the finish line on the last lap, then they'd be like, man, we won.
Work smarter, not harder.
Exactly.
There you go. Yeah, we've got Alfa Romeo's plans sorted. If they're the worst car, we know what to do. Just put the camo livery pack on, and you're sorted. But I think that's pretty much almost it. I was just going to find out. There's a couple more that me and Sean were talking about earlier on as well. Obviously the livery side of things as well. The final little bit was obviously announced last week as well. Was a new team for Formula One. So it was the Andretti Global Formula One team, of course, coming in 2024. So it won't be coming for the next couple of seasons, unfortunately, just yet. But it has been announced as I think they're in the final stages of actually getting the team entered into Formula One. So what are your thoughts on having first off, what's your thoughts not on the Andretti side of things, but what's your thoughts about having more teams on the grid? Let's go to Sean then first.
Well, you know how much I love it. It's a big bugbear of mine. There needs to be more teams on the grid. I think having only 20 cars and 10 teams on a Formula One grid is it's not good at all. It's terrible. There needs to be, in my opinion, the full grid for Formula One is 26 cars. Last time we had 26 cars on an F1 grid was Monaco '95. I mean, that's ridiculous. We should be having people should like teams, car manufacturers should be scrambling to get onto this F1 grid. And I'm a big fan of new teams coming in. In 2010 it backfired, but hopefully with this budget cap, it will like align the playing field a bit, and Haas proved that they can do it really well. Yeah, their business model is a bit interesting with the partnership with Ferrari, but at the end of the day, it got them in, it got them through the door, and they made a very good fist of things. They've fallen down the grid recently, unfortunately, but as you've heard already, I want them to be back up there, well, at least in the midfield. But Andretti that's a big yes from me. I was a bit disappointed by the negative feedback, and I was also disappointed with negative feedback from teams, I should say, because McLaren. Because I think Zach Brown said about it, and the FIA was saying about how we're not looking for new teams at the moment, which is not great really, because they should be looking for new teams. Until we've got a full grid, they should be looking for new teams.
Yeah, well, that's a good
Rant
shout.
over.
Yeah, so I mean, from my point of view, like I said, I think having, I don't know, I think maybe another couple of teams, or so adding another 4 drivers or so, would also be a good sort of ballpark to at least aim for. So yeah, like I said, if they're saying, oh, we don't want to look at adding teams, obviously they're not looking to add them right away anyway, because obviously this is only going to be 2024, so in got 2 more seasons to go before that. But yeah, I think like you said, having more teams on the grid will only make it a more entertaining sport and a more watched sport as well. And encourage more fans and more people to partake in it as well. Just as a spectator, or as something to do as part of the Formula One experience sort of thing. So yeah, I don't see why it would be a negative thing to add more teams. Emerson, do you want to add more teams? Or
I kind of just completely agree. And it's obviously, if they do come in, it would be great to have the Andretti name back in Formula One as well. But yeah, I think minimum 24 cars, definitely 12 teams. It's just way more better. Yeah, that's my opinion. Short but sweet about that.
That's good. What I was gonna float in there as well is what about having three drivers per, or 3 cars per team?
I mean, if they couldn't get more teams involved, then I suppose that could be another way around doing it. I wouldn't be completely against it, but I know a lot of people would be, because you imagine having a Mercedes 1, 2, 3 on the podium, some people probably wouldn't be a huge fan of it. So
that'd be great. Yeah, get
That
Bottas
would
back
be.
in the Mercedes.
yeah.
Sean, any thoughts on three car teams?
I gotta say that would really look very satisfying, though, wouldn't it? On the same team on the podium with the same constructors.
Oh, imagine if all of them lined up as it was 3-3-3. That'd be fantastic.
Or yeah, that'd be great. Oh, my OCD's going like out the window, and I'm like, whoa. But yeah, I'm traditionalist. Two teams. Because they were speaking very heavily about this three-car team in 2005 or six or something like that. May have even been later than that actually, because when I think that they was having a recession issue, wasn't it? And like loads of manufacturers was dropping out, and they was talking about like about three car teams. It's very interesting. It's interesting, but no, I'm a traditionalist. Two cars per team, 26 cars. Get Oscar Piastri in there, and drivers that shouldn't be, no disrespect to Formula E, but I feel that some drivers in Formula E should probably have been given a chance in F1. I mean, Jean-Eric Vergne didn't deserve to lose his seat, and people like that. Buemi probably didn't deserve to lose his seat. I quite like Nick Cassidy for some unknown reason. Don't know why. He's just a random guy. Pascal Verlaine, yeah. Like the list goes on. List goes on, and like Nick De Vries, F2 championship crack in F1. In my opinion, maybe not Davide Valsecchi. I love him as a commentator, but I thought as a race driver he's a bit naff.
It's a bit odd that, and I think we've spoken about this before as well, that the F2 champion doesn't get a seat. It doesn't. Well, you might not get a seat in Formula One, so you're kind of stuck there in a bit of limbo, waiting. So, like you said, having more teams, or even either way, having more cars on the grid, whichever way they do it, would be good, because then you have that more opportunity for that sort of thing to happen, where somebody can come up and at least, or somebody can come up, or even like I said, the drivers that deserve an F1 seat, like Piastri as well, could have that opportunity, or have more of an opportunity to get into Formula One, because there's more cars physically to race in. So yeah, I said, I think going back to the actual point about having more cars on the grid, I think it would be a fantastic idea to implement that. I think you'd have a problem with it on some tracks, just because of the types of tracks they are.
Oh, they're the world's best drivers, Alex. They should be able to navigate themselves around Monaco. No.
Instead of Piastri, I'm nominating Sean Meek.
Maybe not Monaco.
We'll have to do a few seat adjustments, I think, would definitely be needed.
Excuse me?
What?
Whoa. Outrageous.
Wow.
I'm an athlete. Harsh. I'm an athlete, Emerson. I don't know what
yeah, it's mainly because of the big muscles that you've got.
Of course, yeah.
Yes. Big muscles, yes.
What did you think of that?
Oh, must have been my big feet, obviously.
Well, you know what I say about big feet?
Big socks. Oh, we're not going into that because I got real bad pair of socks on at the moment, and they're really holy.
Oh, dear.
And they're odd as well.
Holy.
I just realised one's Tuesday and one's Saturday. That's what I've been fidgeting about for the last 2 minutes. It's been annoying me. Anyway, let's move on.
No, I think that is the end of the topics. So I think
it's a great way to end it. Sean's holy socks.
Yeah. Sean has ended it on a brilliant note there. Fantastic stuff indeed. Thank you very much for tuning in, for joining us for the fourth episode of the In the Cockpit podcast. Of course, we'll hopefully be back next week to enlighten you with hopefully some. I think next week probably will be our predictions for our constructors and the drivers for the grid for next season coming up. So hopefully myself and Sean will be able to put together some decent lists. And
it won't be decent.
Why.
It'll be a list, but it won't be decent.
Well, put a list together. Then in that case, we'll have a list for you, and we can show you a bit of paper on the screen or something, and then that'll do. Yeah, so stay tuned for that, of course. Hopefully coming up next week. But yeah, so thanks very much for watching, guys, and see you later.
Ciao for now.